Hey everybody, it's Ben and Andrea here at VW Family Farm. If this is your first video you're ever seeing from us, welcome. If you've been around for a while, we appreciate you guys so much for watching. Today we have got an information-packed video for you guys. We want to talk about how to start a homestead or a small farm or whatever you want to call it. We thought about titling this video, so you want to be a homesteader. But that's what it boils down to. In fact, what is a homesteader? Well, in my opinion, if you want to be one, you already are. It's a state of mind. It's just this deep sense of going back to your roots. Whether you've made the first step towards it or not, maybe this video is your first step, then I'm gonna say you're already a homesteader and you're welcome here. So let's jump right into it. If you want to be a homesteader, what are some things that you need to do to get going? What would we recommend? We live on a pretty large farm, but honestly our homestead is on a small acreage and always has been. It still is to this day. Our large farm is cattle and hay, but our main operation is on about 8 to 9 acres. It started on about 5 and it's kind of expanded a little bit. But that's my best estimation. 8 to 9 acres is pretty much all of our homestead.
Yep.
So what is your first tip for them if they are wanting to be a homesteader? What would you do first?
I would always recommend any new homesteader, if you want fruit, you always want to start with fruit trees. Fruit trees are going to take a couple to 3 years to start producing fruit. That will be something you can start first and start easy. So what am I meaning about fruit trees, a fruit orchard or whatever? Any type of fruit trees, apple trees, peach trees, things like that, but also bushes like blueberry bushes, elderberry bushes, grapevines, nut trees. If you're wanting any type of nuts on there, those are going to be a long time coming. Pecan trees, things like that. So that's going to be something that you're definitely going to want to start as soon as possible, get those things started growing.
And so let's back this truck up just a little bit. We are assuming here that you have some land. Maybe you don't even have land yet, so that would be your prequel. If you're a reader like I am, that's your prequel to this whole book. You're going to need a place for this homestead. Like I said, our homestead is pretty large in what we raise, and we have it all on 8 to 9 acres. So you could scale everything that we're doing down, and you could easily have a homestead on a couple acres. 2, 3, 4, 5, however big you want to go. So you're going to have to find some land that you feel like would be suitable for what you're wanting to do. And then like Ben was saying, get it started, because fruit and nuts are just a whole lot of hurry up and wait. You're not going to get anything very quickly. So that's our first tip.
All right, next we're going to go to gardens. Gardens are a big part of our homestead here. We actually have 3 separate gardens, which total right about 22,000 square feet of garden space.
That's a lot.
In doing that, we've got 3 different ones where we can grow multiple varieties of the same species, like tomato plants back here, tomato plants over there, because you're wanting to space them out. That way, if you're going to save your seeds, you've got to space them out far enough apart so they don't cross-pollinate. Things like that.
Now, you can definitely, like I said, garden on a much smaller scale than what we do. And there's ways to save your seeds. There's little bags to put over them where they won't cross-pollinate and things like that. But if you want to go with the less work, space them out and then just save your seeds. We do that for a variety of reasons as well. We rotate crops. If we have a bug problem on our brassicas, we don't put brassicas there for a couple years, or potatoes or things like that. And it really does work, you guys. Rotating your crops around really does help with your pest control. So gardens are something you're going to want to start right away, and you can start very small with a raised bed or 2 and just get your feet wet and learning. You can start seeds or you can buy plants. There's just so many different ways to do it. You can do back to Eden, you can do all raised beds, you can do ground cover. The sky's the limit. You just have to figure out what it is you're interested in doing and what does your budget allow. If it allows for nothing more than just a hoe you can go buy and you got to break that ground up by hand, it can be done, I promise you. Next on our list is cows. And this, we've talked a lot about what I'm about to talk to you guys about, and it is truly what we believe is the best way for a small homesteader or someone trying to get into cows to do it. A lot of people say, I'm afraid of cows, I can't do cows. But I promise you, if you can raise a goat, you can raise a cow.
Yeah.
It's no different. In some ways, it's easier. And what I would recommend if you are trying to grow food is get you a dairy cow. They have really sweet personalities, the cows. No, I'm not talking about the bulls. But dairy cows have really fun personalities usually. And you can milk that cow. You can make all of your dairy products. You can make cheese. Of course, you'll have milk, yogurt, butter, all those types of things. We've made kefir. We've made sour cream, cream cheese, cottage cheese. We've made it all out of our home dairy cow. But you can also get beef from a dairy cow.
Yep. And actually really, really good beef.
Yes.
Some of the top choices of our beef is going to be out of a Jersey cow. So in going through your dairy breeds, we also like to recommend you crossbreeding them with a beef bull. Whether that's AI, that stands for artificial insemination, you can do it. You can have a veterinarian do it, things like that, or buy you a bull. And if depending on the size of your pasture that you're going to have it in, you can run your bull with your cow year round. That's not going to hurt a thing. Also, if your pasture is big enough, like what we ended up doing after we first started, is we got a secondary cow. And you'll want to rotate your breeding cycle between those two. That way you've always got milk.
Yes.
But when you cross them, you've got a beefier dairy breed of a calf that you can turn around and raise for butcher. Now, a lot of people always hear dairy cow, you got to milk it every day, twice a day, and
7 days a week, 365 days a year. And we just don't do things like that here. We have a busy farm. We have a busy life. We're raising 2 teenagers. We just do not milk 365 days a year. So how do we do that? How do we get away with not doing that? Well, we do what's called calf sharing. So we keep our calves and we raise them on their mama. We do not bottle feed. That's another thing that I just flat out don't have time to do every 12 hours. And so when I want to milk the next day, I separate them out at night. They get some feed for a treat. They get a warm, dry place to stay. And they basically sleep in or next to the barn. And then I get up and I milk their mamas the next morning. I try to leave them a little bit of milk and I let them out. They have their breakfast. They have all day with their mama. And if I want to milk again the next day, I repeat that process. I normally just milk a few times a week because other days I have other things I do here on the farm. And so it's really not that hard. Anyone can have a dairy cow if they do it like that. And you will raise a great calf because dairy mamas have a lot of milk.
Also on cows, a lot of people don't know, but it all depends on where you live, but it's always recommended you need about 1.5 to 2 acres per cow calf. That way you have plenty of pasture for each one to graze on. So if you was running on, let's say 5 acres of pasture land for your cows, you could easily do 2, and pretty much in most cases you could even run a bull there.
Right. Right now, just to give you a little perspective, my milk pen is about 4 acres. It's about 4.5, but we have a half-acre pond in it. So it's about 4 acres. And I actually have 4 cows and 4 calves and a bull out there right now. And it's working fine. So it's all going to depend on how much grass you have as well. The 1.5 to 2 acres per cow calf is going to give you plenty of grass if you have decent grass. Now I know some of you are up in like Wyoming and you send me emails and you're like, wow, your grass. So it's all going to depend on where you live.
Or if you're around somewhere like Phoenix, Arizona, or
right,
somewhere like that that's hot and dry.
Right. So that gives you a little perspective on how much land you need. So the cow thing is huge, I think, on a homestead, because if you are a meat eater and so now you have a home dairy cow, you're providing your dairy products, and then their calf is now a crossbreed. Just so y'all are clear, it's now a crossbreed between dairy and between beef, and it's a beefy calf. You will get lots of good meat off of that, and you will have little to no money in it. And you've provided your family with awesome, awesome protein.
Next, we're going to move to pigs. We really, really recommend pigs. Pigs are something that almost made our farm from the get-go. We have raised a boar and sow pair. We ended up going to 3 sows. We sell our piglets, and we also sell butcher ready pigs. So that provides our meat. It provides money, income to pay for feeding the boar and sow throughout the year and things like that. We raise ours on pasture, so they're pasture fed, and they've got a grain supplement.
When we first began with pigs, we sold a lot of just piglets. That's not your most profitable way. Your most profitable way is to get customers and raise them up for people who have no desire to, or maybe they have no ability to raise their own pork, but they want it and they're proud to support you. That is your most profitable way. But when we began, we did not have those customers. We just had to let time happen to get the word out. So we sold piglets. And that again helped our farm get going. It gave us a little cash to go out and get the cow or to get this or whatever. It helped us. And a lot of people will say, well, I'll just buy a couple of piglets every year. And I don't have to raise the boar and sow. I don't have to have them all through the winter and all those things. Those are such valid reasons. I understand that. Here is the problem when you can't find those piglets to buy. And that's what's happened lately. There's no piglets to be bought because of food scares and food shortages.
Or, in our case on this video, is sustainability. You're always relying on someone else to provide your piglets. That's not going to be sustainable for your farm. You want, in our opinion, you want a boar and sow. That way you've always got your own piglets coming.
So bottom line is, pork is a great thing to raise, especially if you're in kind of a dry area where there's not a lot of pork producers. I guarantee you will not have any trouble selling those pigs if you raise them naturally. So let's move to chickens. A lot of people also message us and say, I just don't know if I can do the meat chickens. I'm a little afraid of doing them. How will I do it? It's going to be gross. I can't kill something that I raise. Again, all valid points, but I promise you, you can do it. Especially if you raise the Cornish crosses or a genuine type of meat bird, even the Freedom Rangers, some of those, you're not going to have them that long. It's like an intense process, but it's very short. And we've raised like 100, 200 at a time, no problem. Just with our 4-person team here on our farm, we've handled those just fine.
And then when it comes processing day, most of the time we are ready for them to be processed to get that chore out of our hair, because
yes,
it can be time consuming, it can be a pain.
It's gross.
It's gross.
So by the time, like Ben is saying, when it comes to process them, you're usually ready.
Yeah.
We try to respect every life here on our farm and give every animal here the best life possible, and we do. But the bottom line is, some chores, just as the animals get closer and closer, especially meat chickens, it just gets grosser and grosser, and you're pretty much ready. And you can do it. You can do it with a plucker, and you can do an amazing job. It's better than any chicken you can buy in the store, but you can also do it without a plucker.
Yep.
If you're on a budget, you can start small, raise twice as many as your family needs, sell those to friends and neighbors, and stick that back and get you a plucker, and you will be in business.
I guarantee you. Next, of course, I'm going to go to honeybees. I love my honeybees. You always need pollinators around your garden, and who doesn't love honey? So I always will recommend to any homestead honeybees. And that don't even mean you have to harvest their honey, but you do have them there for their pollination. And if you want the honey, that's even a bonus.
And also on the honeybees, all of these things we've mentioned can be just all these diversified income streams for you and your farm. There's so many avenues of making an income off honeybees, from raising queens to selling honey to selling hives to selling nukes to selling swarms you catch. There's so many avenues to make a little cash if you need to for your farm. Things happen, things can come up, and all these things you have are just ways to generate quick income if something comes up and you need it.
Okay, one other thing that you're going to want to think about when you're purchasing your homestead or just setting it up is a pond. A pond is a very vital source on a homestead. It's used for watering your animals, irrigation for all your gardens, plus You got fish in there. Who doesn't like to eat some fish?
The 8th thing I wanted to share with you guys, we got 10 things, so I got 3 quick things left. The 8th thing is, don't go into it with a closed mind. Go into it with an open mind, knowing that some things you may have dreamed about this for years, but you may have to tweak some things and change some things based on your property or the weather that year or the sickness of an animal or whatever that case may be. Don't base everything that you do on this homestead on the dream you had, because the dreams change and they grow and they become even better than you thought they would. And right along with that, don't think that your homestead has to look just like Bob's on YouTube or even your neighbor. Sometimes your homestead, it's going to be tailor-made to you and what works for you. So go into it with an open mind, be flexible. If you're going into this with your spouse, you're going to have to compromise. I promise you it's going to happen. You're going to have to, or you're going to be miserable. Unless your spouse just lets you be right all the time, and then maybe you won't be miserable. But go into it knowing you're going to have to work together, and you're going to have to be willing to give as well as take.
Another point, you want to go into this with your eyes wide open. It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be hard at times. You're going to question yourself, but you can do it. Anybody can do it if they put their mind to it.
Yes. It's a lot of work, and it's a slow process. We have people come see our homestead, and then they think that it's just going to be like, they want to do it all at once too. And we didn't do it all at once. We started with pigs, and then it was a while before we did anything else. We had gardens. We've had gardens our whole married life. So that was before even the whole homestead thing. And we just slowly added one thing after another. That doesn't mean like next year I can only add one thing and I've got to go super slow. Most homesteaders didn't do it that way. They jumped in over their head and just muddled their way through. And you may do that too. And if you do, that's okay. But my best advice is take it one thing at a time. Even if that means you focus on this one thing for even a month, and you complete this project before you move on and start 3 more.
But just don't overdo yourself and get discouraged.
And my final tip for you guys is don't give up. There is nothing special about us or anybody you're watching on YouTube. I promise you that. What is unique to each homesteader that you're seeing actually doing it and growing their food and growing animals and gardens and putting out videos and all that, the key to it is just sticking with it. That's all there is to it. You have to just be a problem solver and someone who perseveres. I actually have a bracelet that says persevere, and that is, I made that on purpose to tell me to keep going. Even if I get discouraged and I have a bad day and I think, what am I doing? I cannot do all this. Then I just have to tell myself, I can do all this. We will do all this, and we have a lot of animals and people depending on us, and we will not quit and we will not give up. And so I encourage you to do the same. Before you ever start, set your mind to it that you will not stop and you will not be stopped.
All right, and the final bonus tip on this video is, if you are going to be setting up permanent fencing for your animals, I highly recommend you looking at like 4x4 woven wire. That way it's multi-use. It's so versatile out there. You can use it on chickens, pigs, sheep, goats, cows, whatever. And that way you're spending your money one time on one fence and not having to redo it. But also in that, I highly recommend hot wire. You can divide your pens up so easy. Once you've got your permanent fencing on the outside, you can divide your inner pens up however you need to. Plus, for certain pigs, it will keep your pigs from trying to root under your fence.
We have not always used hot wire, but we are slowly going back and changing over to hot wire because it is the fence of the future. It is the way to go. We have even trained our animals to it, and I promise you guys, it is amazing. We can take a roll of hot wire and we can walk the wildest cow exactly where we want it to go with a hot wire that is not even on.
Or the biggest bull.
Yes. We've walked some huge bulls that wanted to turn around and get us exactly where we wanted them to go. Hot wire is so much easier. It's one of those work smarter, not harder things. I promise you, you will not regret it. So that is our top 10 tips of how to start a homestead, things to do to get up and running. And some of those are going to be out of order for you guys. You may have already done some of those at the bottom of the list, but not at the top. That's just how it is. That's life. That's life on a homestead.
Yep. We appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for watching. And until next time, God bless.
And if you like this video, if this is something you think would help others, that they might enjoy our content, help us by sharing our videos. That helps our channel so much and keeps us going here on YouTube. We thank you guys so much, and we'll see you tomorrow.